What's going on, everybody? UFC 317 recap. International Fight Week, and it was a pretty good card overall. Lots of violence, lots of good spots. Not nearly as many underdogs came through as I kind of thought, but for the most part, we were able to hit those top two lines and survive. So close with the Brendan Royval fight, but just an absolute back and forth, insane war, which we will talk about. So, I mean, could have been better, could have been a lot worse, and I will most definitely take that. Yeah, 11 fights to jump through, so might as well jump right into the action. Starting off with, this is weird. So the card had the very first fight, Jonathan Diniz, and the very last fight, Ilia Topuria, was the basis of the top ticket. So we needed the very first guy to win and the very last guy to win. And starting off with Jonathan Diniz, when he opened at minus 350, which was the opener for this fight, no way would you bet this guy. But because it had moved so quickly down to minus 350, it seemed like it was Jonathan Diniz all day long. His problem is Brazilian kickboxer, and the guy's wrestling's a little bit lackluster, but Alvin Hines is literally coming in on a week or two's notice. It's his UFC debut. He's already 33 years old. He's been fighting pro for 2 years. He's a full-time engineer in Minnesota. There's just so many things going against him. It was hard to see the guy get a win. So Diniz became the clear pick, and he wins. In my opinion, he won fairly comfortably. But I got more respect for Alvin Hines and like a less respect for Jonathan Diniz. Not like in the biggest negative way, but Diniz should have been able to go out there and put him away. Again, you're now starting to get some experience at the UFC level. You've got a decade plus of kickboxing experience. Your one element is this world-class kickboxing. And as a heavyweight, you've got to carry a modicum of power. And yet he hit Alvin Hines with everything he had. Couldn't really put him away. He started to slow at some points. Hines had certainly some moments. His takedown defense looked good, but Alvin Hines is not really a credited wrestler. So it's hard to say like you should have knocked this guy in the first round. That dude was tough, but you probably should have looked a lot better against a short notice debuting guy, all the things we mentioned. Whereas Hines, meanwhile, what was the expectation for this guy? That he was going to get his ass kicked. But I mean, he came out, he's got a hell of a chin on him. His cardio is pretty solid, especially considering he was on short notice. And by no means is this guy a world beater. Never will he be a world beater. But when you compared him to guys like Alan Bodo or Chase Sherman or Parker Porter, like, yeah, he's not the worst heavyweight on their roster. None of those guys are actually on the roster anymore for good reason. But, I mean, he's not the worst guy in the division. I'm sure there's a few that he can beat here and there, especially just by outlasting them. Again, when you look at the round by round, I don't know why. Okay, yes, first round, Diniz, he's outlanding him. I mean, that was the story of it. If you watched it, not only was he outlanding him more volume, he was landing a lot better punches. His left hook in particular was just too fast for Hines. Hines was ballsy. After every round, he'd put his hands up in the air, not to say, I won the round, to just say, like, hell yeah, I'm here and I'm doing this thing. And by the last round, Alvin Hines threw 108 significant strikes, landed a fight best 40. And if you were to argue that Alvin Hines won any of the 3 rounds, that was the round. So not to say it was if it was a 5-round fight, but like if it was in the LFA, it was an LFA title fight. Hines was coming on. He's got some admirable qualities to him, but skills weren't exactly his best quality. It was mostly just like heart, tenacity, grit. You'll see Alvin Hines again. He'll beat somebody in the UFC. For Diniz, you never put this guy in the top ticket ever again. He had a competitive fight against Alvin Hines. He struck him 112 to 82 and gave up the fight's lone takedown. It was competitive. So what does he do with a guy that's top 20, top 25? Like, the division only got 26 guys in it, and that was the 26th guy. You just beat him. So I don't know. Jonathan Diniz didn't exactly sell me, but he won, and we need him to win. And so kudos to him. He's got my respect. Good stuff. Moving on, we got Jacoby Smith versus Nico Price. Jacoby Smith would have been a top ticket guy if not for the fact that he went off at like minus 2,000, minus 2,500. At that point, there's absolutely no meat on the bone, so even adding him to the top line just doesn't do anything. Bottom line is that we had to put him down with, I don't know, even the second line. You could have dropped the guy to the third line, truth be told, but none of that matters. The thing is that he was supposed to go out there and win. We all know about his credited wrestling. Nico Price, although he's got 18 fights in the UFC, and this is most definitely a tough second opponent in the UFC for Jacoby Smith, but Nico Price is just a little bit chewed. There was rumors circulating behind the scenes that this might be his last fight. If he won, apparently it was a good time to go out on a high note, beating this top prospect. And if he lost, hey, man, there's no shame. You went in there and you mixed it up with the top prospect. But I just feel like when guys win, they always say, well, I just beat a top prospect. What's the point of quitting? Him losing, I don't know what he's planning on doing. Obviously, the story is he's got 7 kids. He's got a lot of mouths to feed. He's not super old. but the game's starting to pass him by a little bit. That being said, he did have a pretty decent first round. Like, Jacoby Smith is a superior wrestler, gets the easy takedown early, and just starts to drub him. I think it's going to be done right then and there. I rode that Jacoby Smith TKO prop thinking he's just going to put this guy away with the ground and pound. But kudos to Nico. He's able to survive. He's able to get back up. And then there's no knockdown, so I guess the ruling is slip. But like right at the end of the round, he gets like stiffed with the jab, loses his balance, falls over. It looks like this knockout's going to materialize in round 2. But Joe Rogan seemed to care about this more than anybody else, was that Jacoby Smith was apparently real gassed out. You just look at how much he's slowed, and he's very tired. And I'll admit, it looked like he was noticeably different in the last half of the first round than he was in the first half. But the guy's a world-class athlete. He's a wrestler. He knows about the grind. He knows about conserving himself. He knows about lowering his heart rate and catching his wind. So I wasn't worried. It's just minus 2,500. He probably should have taken him out in the first round. Second round, and I flirted with the idea of a second round Jacoby Smith TKO plus 350. Never got there. Didn't matter anyways because it was never going to be a TKO. It was the submission. It kind of caught me off guard. I felt like Jacoby Smith was just going to pass, but all of a sudden, guy's strong. Nico's also fading. He grabs a hold of the neck and puts him away. There's really not much to say about this fight. It's an ultra prospect who, on one hand, didn't look as good as you thought he'd look. On the other hand, it's his second fight in the UFC. He's still young. He's still developing. When we talk about a guy like Peyton Talbott later, fight to fight, sometimes it's like, oh, he just looks okay. Rob Davashvili lost his first 2 fights in the UFC and went on to be the greatest bantamweight of all time. So this was a win for Jacoby Smith, and I don't think you can put on this expectation. The next time you see him, you can't be like, I didn't like how he looked against Nico. It didn't look that good. Looked like he was slowing down. The improvements he'll make fight to fight is huge. And if they give him contender series guys, if they give him faded veterans, if they give him guys with less than 5 fights in the organization, it's like he'll shine. But if they try to fast track him to an actual contender, well, what you saw last night is he's not actually ready for an actual contender, but he's doing all the right things moving towards that. And for Nico, it puts him on a 2-fight losing streak. Themba's got no skills. He's just really athletic. Jacoby's extremely athletic and has some skills. Robbie Lawler punched him out in 38 seconds. Phil Rowe TKO'd him in the 3rd round when he tired. 1 win over Alex Morono in the mix. And when you watch that fight, it's ultra competitive. I feel like it's the end of him. But I've always been really steadfast on not my fucking choice, not anybody's choice, athlete's choice. If he says he wants to fight and he's a full-grown man, who are you to tell him you shouldn't be stepping in a cage? So you didn't get violently knocked out and lose a bunch of brain cells and walk around with CTE. You got choked out by a top contender. Whatever you want to do after this, completely up to you. Whether it be in the UFC, whether it be in an organization outside of the UFC, you may see Nico Price again, and I wouldn't fault him. I would watch it, right? But certainly at this level, at a UFC level, if that ever means anything anymore, it's just not for him anymore. 2-0 to start the night, so of course we've got to run into just a little bit of turbulence. Terrence McKinney versus Vyacheslav Borshchev. Man, I mentioned this many times. If I'm going to lose this, I'm going to look like an idiot. That's what happens when you bet against Terrence McKinney. When you lose, it looks real bad, and it usually comes in 2 minutes or less. Borshchev trains at Alpha Male. He's in a room full of these athletic college wrestlers, blast double leg, take you down. And what's Alpha Male known for more than any other submission? These guillotine chokes. Front headlock, guillotine transitions. Uriah Faber, the god of the guillotine at Team Alpha Male. It was one of his favorite techniques. So you would think that Borshchev's ready for this takedown that's coming his way, and he's ready for this guillotine choke that's coming his way. And it just don't matter, man. Like, he doesn't have enough takedown defense to keep the fight standing. He doesn't have enough footwork to just avoid him, and he's not fast enough to use any type of footwork to avoid him. So it's, McKinney in the first 2-3 minutes is just going to take him down and rough him up. And we knew that, and we discussed that. We just thought Borshchev's durability would be good enough to get past that. But when McKinney wins real fast. And that's exactly what it was. I mean, the guy's very strong. He's athletic. He had a not so great weight cut, let's say. When you see him on the scale on Friday, it's like they bring up the curtain and he looks very relieved to, have been made weight so he doesn't have to get back into a sauna. So even more so, he's coming out to go as hard as he possibly can early, knowing if this thing gets extended, I might tire. He's tried to pace himself before. It hasn't worked. Now he just bread lines every single time. It was my fault for 2 things. One, Borshchev was the PRP pick, and whatever. I mean, the last guy on the ticket, you lose that little, you put a few bucks on it for the long shot ticket. That I'm not upset about. I did take a over 1.5. thinking if Borshchev was going to win, he was just going to get through that first round. And then once the second started, McKinney would fade away. Borshchev would start to piece him up. And like that was the second worst bet I made on the card. Worst bet, obviously, being Kai France in any form, not competitive. That was a bad bet. This was also a bad bet. McKinney just ran right through him. And if the offhand chance that McKinney wouldn't have just run right through him, Borshchev probably would have just had to have caught him in the first round or uppercutted him as he's shooting this takedown, or over 1.5 still ain't hitting if Borshchev wins the fight as well. So that was just, stupid. It was just stupid. It wasn't like I had a ton invested on it. It was the bottom line pick, but it was a bad pick all the same. And I'm just not in the business of giving people bad advice. Sometimes it's advice that didn't work. Sometimes it's bad advice. That was bad advice. Tracy Cortez versus Viviane Araujo. Of course, we had the over 2.5 at -650. But beyond that, yeah, Tracy Cortez. And again, I did have a lot of betting underdogs this week. So when I'm making the parlays, even though I don't love Tracy Cortez, she's one of the favorites that I do actually think is a legit favorite. And so I need to play her at some point. So she got a lot more attention. Put her, I think, on the third line. Yeah, she ended up being on the third line, the fifth most confident pick. And I didn't think it would look as easy as she made it look. But yeah, Tracy's the clear side here. This is someone that's good looking, marketable, can go out there, is capable of, performing at a high level, is a talented fighter, tons of skill. As Joe Rogan mentioned in the post-fight interview, maybe she's been hampered by injuries and she's not able to fight a lot. But when she does fight, I mean, she's got a clean win over Jasmine Jasudavicius, who's probably in line for a title fight, if not knocking at the door for a title contender match to a title fight. So I think that Tracy Cortez is right in the mix. You just got to go out there and deliver good performance. And Viviane Araujo is a solid fighter that's had a lot of good performances, usually are at her best for the first 2 rounds. But for the first 2 rounds, is capable of hanging with a lot of people. I thought Cortez did an excellent job of just basically coming in the first round, securing the takedown. Her striking looked pretty good. It looked like Vivi was maybe landing some heavier shots early in that first, but that constant grind from Cortez, taking her down, starting to take the energy away from her. Vivi's 39 years old, right? And she's always been a 2-round fighter. So having Tracy win the first round gave you everything you needed to know, because the first round's usually Vivi's best round. And if you can't secure that first round, 2 and 3 ain't going to go in your way. Second round, it's much more of the same. Tracy Cortez is just the superior wrestler. She's got a lot more volume generally. Jab is working well. And then the third round, she grabs a head and arm choke that looked like it might ruin this fight goes the distance ticket. Not that I had that. I had over 2.5, and that had already hit. But it looked like Tracy might go out and secure her first finished victory in the UFC, which would have been nice. Wasn't to be. Ends up just winning the fight clean. I think she factors in with the top girls of the division, whether it be a Miranda Maverick or a rematch with Jasmine Jasudavicius. If they ran her versus Jessica Andrade, I think Tracy Cortez wrecks Jessica Andrade. Not so sold with, I don't know. There's a lot of good girls that she could go out there and compete at the highest level, 1 through 5, and give a good account of herself. So I think she's right there. This is a solid win. As long as she's injury-free and she can jump back in there, all good. For Arroyo, it's like, again, she's 39. She's at that point of her career where she's not going to be contending for a title anytime coming soon. But is she serviceable enough to go out there and give you a decent fight and test fighters? Could she be a good barometer test for some of these young prospects, seeing who's legit and who's not legit? Yeah, she's capable of doing all that. But beyond that, probably not. Amil versus Jose Delgado. This one's similar to McKinney. It looks bad, and then like, dude, you were so off on this one, which is fair. And I also did take an over 2.5 at +125. So that looks really bad too. This one was different than McKinney. McKinney, you knew he was going to get the blast double and he was going to try some big ground and pound or try to grab a submission. It happened. You knew it was a possibility. This Delgado one, McKinney Borshchev, you run it 10 times. McKinney does exactly what he did to Borshchev, I don't know, 5 or 6 times, maybe 7 times based on how that one looked. If Amil and Delgado run it back 10 times, how that finished with just like a knee up the middle, 25 seconds in, that plants them straight on the money. Like, I'm not calling it a fluke. Excellent technique. And if you watch anything on Jose Delgado, this guy loves knees right up the middle. It's like his specialty. So I'm not saying it was fluke by no means, but yeah, he just wasn't like, oh man, he absolutely smoked Amil, knocked him out, beat the crap out of him for 90 seconds, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Amil folds over. This was non-competitive. It's like, yeah, they exchange a couple punches. Amil's trying to move forward. It looks like it's going to be one hell of a scrap. And then Delgado just launches a nuclear knee up the middle. in real time, especially if you have money on Amil, then you're going to be in the favor of, oh, it's an early stoppage. I can't believe it. Look, he was fine. He was trying to get back up. After the fight, it's like he's immediately fine, protesting it, being like, I'm fine. When you watch the slow motion, he does look like he's out for at least a second or two. So it is a fair stoppage. And who knows what would have happened if Herb Dean's in there is reffing it and he's just down to watch people get killed apparently. Then yeah, they probably let this thing go. So maybe one of those punches wakes Amil back up. Maybe Delgado just keeps punching. Maybe that finish doesn't materialize. Maybe he punches himself out, or maybe Amil clears his cobwebs, or maybe Amil can work to a clinch and save himself, like a Beneil Dariush. Beneil Dariush got seriously hurt, but maybe he could have cleared it. The slow motion replay shows he looks out for at least a couple seconds. But I've seen that hundreds of times. A guy is out and then his head bounces off the canvas or a follow-up shot hits him. He wakes back up. And many of times the guys come back to work his way back into the fight, if not outright win the fight. So it's a scary game. Sometimes you're out for a second, you're not out. I'm not going to sit here and argue that the fight shouldn't have been stopped and I got screwed and Hydra Amil just got clipped and Jose Delgado got lucky. Delgado is talented and he's an offensive dynamo. Do you know anything more about him? Well, we knew he was an offensive dynamo, but we didn't get to see his wrestling tested. We didn't get to see his cardio tested. We didn't get to see, just other elements to his game. It's just 25 seconds and he smokes Amil. Amil was previously undefeated. He is 35, so you can't really consider him a prospect, but he had never been beaten. And so to knock him out is a huge feather in your cap. And then the flip side for Hyder, I don't want to hold it against him in that, oh man, you lost. You're no good. You're over the hill. Like I'd consider betting him again going in the future. But if there was a notion that this guy was unbreakable, dude, honestly, he still might be unbreakable. It's a knee to the head. Like sometimes it's like, oh, this guy got spinning wheel kicked in the face. Sean Strickland, right? Sean Strickland one time got like a spinning wheel kick in the face. He goes down. Guy's got a cast iron chin. Technique like that, dude. The fight ender. The fight ending technique. Speaking of fight-ending techniques, G-Rod versus Jack Hermansson. Now, Gregory Rodriguez, again, one of the favorites that I do agree with, and I end up putting him on the second line. And so as the night's starting to shake out here, really need some Gregory Rodriguez. This guy's large, in charge. I thought he looked pretty good against Jared Cannonier, but obviously faded late. The narrative was out there that cardio could be possibly, an issue, but yeah, this is only a 3-round fight. So Jack Hermansson has excellent cardio, and the longer he drags you, it's going to be a problem. But you got to clip Jack. You got to hurt Jack. And the way he was hurting Jared Cannonier, I just don't think that Jack Hermansson is going to stand up to that type of firepower. And it's no knock on Jack Hermansson. It's that he's fought a number of power punchers. Thiago Santos is a big power puncher. He catches him at the end of the first round, 1 second left. Kind of like this fight. Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier is a big power puncher. He looked good in the first round against Jared. Knocked out 27 seconds into the second round. Obviously, his fight against Roman Dolitz, 3 fights back now. He won the first round. He looked really good in the first round. Second round, he gets clipped. He gets put away. The older you get, it's not like your durability gets better. And when you're fighting, Pfeiffer had him hurt in the first round, couldn't put him away. Chris Curtis is not the biggest one-punch hitter quitter, more of a volume guy. And he's a welterweight, so you're able just to kind of not run away, but use your size, make him come to you. He's a counter puncher to begin with. I don't know. That was a good style clash. The point that I'm trying to make is that when he fights these big power punchers, they're known for that ability to just turn the lights off. At some point, he tends to get clipped. Now, in the early portion of this fight, I'm thinking, oh man, this is looking really good for G-Rod. He is getting outworked, like out-volumed, but all of his strikes are the bigger punches. The right hand over the top, clips Jack at the top of the head. He's trying to put a left hook behind it. His jab is just so long down the middle. And then the longer this thing goes, it's like, oh yeah, man, G-Rod's landed the bigger punches. He's going to knock out Jack at some point. Hermansson's got a real nice jab of his own. And although nothing that Jack's throwing seems to be heavy with power, he is busting RoboCop's face up bad. RoboCop's got a cut over the left eye. He's got a cut over the right eye. Seems to have a cut on the bridge of a cut over the bridge of his nose. His eyes are swelling. The longer this thing goes, we're going to lose. I'm not really let's fade my own bet, live bet Jack Hermansson type of guy, but the momentum is swinging towards Hermansson. The second round is going to be even more so because Jack is a slow builder that gets better as it goes, and RoboCop is the polar opposite. So if this first round is already starting to go against us, if we're already about to get doubled up in the significant strike stats, this thing's not trending in our direction. And then RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez absolutely torches him. And just for good measure, he gets in there with this very unnecessary hammer fist to Hermansson, who was already down. Kind of hard to watch. Like, hard to watch in the sense that, everybody likes Jack Hermansson. He's a consummate professional. He always shows up, gives you a good account of himself. All around good guy, and he's out. He's all the way out, and you deliver a nuclear bomb from a standing position over someone that's sitting on the ground. But it's not Rodriguez's fault because he's got adrenaline coursing through his veins. He's got multiple lacerations and bruising on his face. He may have a possible concussion. We don't know. And it's his job just to go out there and kill this man, and this is what he's doing. It's the job from the referee to notice Jack's out. I need to step in between and stop it. And this is not an ageism shot or nothing like that, but like Herb Dean's birthday is in September. In September, he'll be turning 55 years old, which is not old. But at what point does your reaction time start to slow down? At what point does your brain take that extra second to determine what you just saw and then send a message to the rest of your body to react to what you just saw? At some point, it's going to start to slow. It's going to start to diminish. Do you see any fighters in there at 55 years old? No, because the reaction time is slowed. Do you see any pro football players or tennis players, or even at a recreational level? There's awesome recreational guys that are 55 that are killing it. They're smoking it in pickleball. But if you were to ask them, are you as fast as you used to be? No would be the answer across the board. The fighter who spends 8, 10, 12 weeks training, it's a huge moment for him. His life, his health, his career, all of these things are in some way, shape, or form in the referee's hand. You let the guy take an insurmountable amount of damage, he's never going to be the same. If you let the guy get violently KO'd and stomped in the head afterwards, he's never going to be the same. You got to save the guy. So for you to be like, I ain't as fast as I was when I was 30 or 35 or 40, and I don't think as sharp as I did when I was 40, and I'm not as quick to make a reaction. Look how a guy like Joe Rogan goes through the motions on the broadcast. And when you listen to Joe 20 years ago, 10 years ago on the broadcast, like Michael Goldberg or not, like that's an amazing duo. Because Joe is tight, he's technical, it flows. Outside of Brian Stan, who was the best broadcaster, Joe Rogan, Mike Goldberg, prime years were the best. Joe's firing on all cylinders. Now Joe got money and he's older and he takes him a second to think. And now when you go to him for advice, it's like, it's awful advice. Like we all, at least me personally, I still love Joe Rogan. I don't like him on commentary. I like Big John McCarthy. I'd rather fucking hang myself than listen to Big John McCarthy on the commentary. So it's just, certain things. All I'm saying here is that Herb needs to reconsider what he's doing because he got Jack Hermansson. Jack Hermansson got KO'd. That should be the end of it. This blow to the head, the second one, highly unnecessary, highly violent. What if this kills him? What if this does, irreparable damage to the guy? What if it puts him in a coma and he wakes up 2 weeks later? Like, that's all worst case scenario, and I got to find some wood to knock on because you never want anything like that to happen. UFC's been around since 1993. There's never been a major injury in terms of a death, or no one's been paralyzed. There's no quadriplegic. There's nothing like that. There's been some long-term damage, but never like short-term in the moment. So I hope Jack's okay. But for Herb, it's like you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, Dan, I get paid a ton of money to referee these fights from the commission. The commission doesn't give you a ton of money per se, as much as he's getting all the big spots, the big fights, the big per diems. He goes to Russia. He goes to teach referee seminars across the world. He signs autograph. You can open a pack of Topps cards. Oh my God, I got a signed Herb Dean. He's a celebrity, right? But at some point you got to say, I'm there to protect guys half my age, less. I'm there to protect them. And if I'm unable to do that, if I'm not reacting fast enough, Herb used to be a fighter. So back in the day when Herb was a ref, he was the guy that was equipped to jump in the middle. He was the guy that was equipped to grab you and rip you off a guy. Herb's a real fighter. Herb's the best ref because of his experiences fighting in the cage. Experiences that Mark Goddard fought a little bit, I suppose. But experiences like Mark Smith or John McCarthy don't have, Herb does. I'm just saying, man, he's almost 55 years old, which is not old, but for the profession, for the sake of the athletes, Herb's got to go, man. Another guy that I really like, similar to Rogan. Rogan doesn't got to go. It irks me a little bit. I don't love hearing him, but he can do whatever he wants because he's not in charge of somebody's health and safety. That's the difference. Anyways, that's my piece on that. G-Rod otherwise absolutely sparked his ass. So, yeah, I'm listening. You're happy to hit a bet, but, oh, man, I just hope Jack's okay because that thing looked vicious. Peyton Talbott versus Felipe Lima. If you're keeping track, the picks that I'm getting wrong so far are the underdog shots, and that's because no underdog has come through. You got a favorite in Jonathan Diniz. Jacoby Smith was the favorite. Terrence McKinney was the favorite. Tracy Cortez was the favorite. Jose Delgado was the favorite. Gregor Rodriguez was the favorite. I thought this would be a dog card, and I got some dogs, and so we're going to need them to start coming through. And so Peyton Talbott is another one of these guys, plus 165. The line sort of moved in his favor a little bit closer to fight time, but again, there was good plus money on him being offered the whole time. And I understand that it was a close competitive fight, and Felipe Lima is an absolute stud in his own right. But the fight should have been lying closer to even money than the big plus money being offered for Peyton Talbott. We've seen this time and time again. A great example would be like a Sean O'Malley, which you could watch some of those early Sean O'Malley fights and be like, he's not that good. He's a really good striker, but his ground game's no good. And Marlo Chito Vera is bouncing his head off the canvas, because he hurt his leg. And his fight with the Andre Sukumantath, he hurts his leg again. But imagine Andre wins that fight, or imagine a lower end guy beats you, then people write you off. You have excellent striking, but they write you off. So this was kind of like that to me. Peyton Talbott, what you can see from him, he is a excellent striker. I mean, smooth. How you beat him is the blueprint that Raoni Barcelos wrote out for you, which is like just chain wrestle this guy. Keep on, wrestle over and over and over and over again. So the kid loses that way. You don't think he goes back to the gym, works on his wrestling? He's at Extreme Couture. He goes as far as to bring in world-class wrestlers, collegiate wrestlers, world champion wrestlers, bring in some of the best guys, and just do that grind. What he comes in through in this version, Lima goes 3 for 15. The 3 he got couldn't really hold him down, couldn't do much with it. He looked so, I wouldn't say advanced, he looked so much better from one extra fight camp. That what do you think 10 more fight camps are going to do for this kid? I think he could be a real special talent, but I don't know. It seems like the people don't like his personality. I make a lot of butt vape jokes. It's funny. It's a funny video. I don't know why the hell someone would post that. I don't know why the hell someone would do that. But all the same, it's funny. I get a laugh out of some things that other people take entirely too seriously. But Peyton just seems like there's some hate out there for whatever reason. When you watch his fight style, he is a Sean O'Malley. I can't say Conor McGregor, but maybe in a few years he'll get there. He's not quite as fast or reactionary as prime Conor. Conor really got out of the way of those shots. Conor really split off the line and countered. It's that he's more of a Sean O'Malley where he can fight long. He's got excellent speed. Everything's straight, extremely linear, and he has more of a tall, lanky frame. He's not all that tall, but he's got more of a lanky frame, which he can generate excellent leverage. He's extremely accurate and precise, but physically, guys will just be able to take him down and have their way there. Felipe Lima has fought guys at 145, like Muhammad Naimov, the Tajik tank, is an absolute beast. At 145 pounds, he fought him. He's able to take him down, get a little bit of control time, choke him out in the third round. Against Talbott, yeah, it was never to be. Now, the fight itself, okay? The fight itself is a 29-28 across the board. And that's fair. I wouldn't argue that. But I thought Peyton Talbott won the first round. It's just a personal level. It starts off, it's like Lima lands up 2 or 3 good right hands. So Lima's landing the better strikes in that Peyton's having trouble finding his distance. He's inching forward with his footwork. He's getting his feet a little bit closer. He's getting a little bit closer. He's trying to find that optimal range. But as he's getting a tad bit too close, Lima's fresh and explosive and a good striker as well. So he does land 2 or 3 good right hands. He attempts the takedown. There's a reversal. Peyton Talbott lands on top. He lands a couple of good shots. There's Felipe Lima kind of like flirts with the idea of grabbing a leg, maybe try to create a scramble. And then Talbott dummies him with like 4 or 5 solid elbows from top. Those elbows from top, to me, scored better than Lima's striking. Then scrambles back up. Talbott gets to his feet. Talbott attempts the takedown. It's a reversal from Felipe Lima. Ends up on top. He gets a little bit of control time. Peyton Talbott gets up. The round ends. The total strikes is 22-17. The significant strikes are 14-10. The control time is basically a wash. It's even both ways. And you stuffed 4 of his takedowns. I thought I thought Talbot slightly got the better of the grappling. He outlanded him. I wouldn't say this is a clear, concise first round Talbot, but even when they show the replays, it's like, what's the moments from this fight? And it's like, oh, that's right, those big elbows on the top. And okay, so one guy landed a few good punches to start the round. One guy had some good elbows in the middle part of the round. They both had a little bit of control time. The fight ends, the round ends, they're both standing. I'm hoping they give it to Payton Talbot because I would love a Payton Talbot victory here. But really, realistically, who knows? So turns out he did lose that round, but I thought he fought a good round. Second round, Lima just goes back to the same game plan where she's trying to get these takedowns, and Payton Talbot's athleticism solid. Like he's able to keep his balance. He's got a good sprawl, especially off a double leg. Where he's vulnerable is up against the cage or a single leg takedown. When you wrench up that single leg, what you could see is that Lima was able to kick out the back leg or just disrupt his base by just tugging him to one side or the other, right? Creating that torque, tug him, he'll fall off balance. If you shoot a double leg, especially standing straight on with him, his hips just shoot so far back, sprawls out, jumps back on top. A couple times it's like during the sprawl, he's able to just step over and in the second round almost got to full mount off a sprawl, ended up having to settle for half guard. But his grappling just looked on point. His striking looked good. Second round was his best round, 21-9 in the significant strikes. 1 for 5 on takedowns, but he got 30 seconds out of it. And again, sprawling and ending up on top, he ends up with almost 2 minutes of his own control time in a submission attempt. So Payton Talbot looks awesome in the second round, wins the second round. Apparently it's 1-1, but they show you the live line after the round up on the TV, and it's minus 900 Payton Talbot. But if this fight is 1-1, why is Payton Talbot a minus 900 live? Because that's how good he looked in the second round. And also, Lima looks tired in the second round. This thing's trending in Payton Talbot's direction all day. Third round, I'm going to give full credit to Felipe Lima. He hit a second wind. Like, he looked tired in the second and, like, bewildered. And then by the third round, he lost. But he came in. He shot 5 more takedowns, got one of them, had a little more control time than he did in the third, tried to slug it out a little bit. It's just that he would throw 1 or 2 good strikes, and then Payton would either get hit or slip the second one, and he's immediately back on him. Talbot's cardio is solid. And although Lima has fought, I believe, 5 rounds over in Octagon MMA, no reason to think he doesn't have cardio problems. It was weaponized cardio from Payton Talbot. And that if there was a round 4 and a round 5, he wasn't going anywhere. He kept looking up at the clock, which back in the day, they would be like, that means he's tired. He's looking at the clock. I don't think so. Like, you can see in the first round, he looks up at the clock. It says 22 seconds. And it's like he nods to himself, and then he smashes Lima with an elbow. As if he looked up and was like, oh, there's 22 seconds left. I might as well smash him with an elbow. I think he's a smart kid. His mom's a plastic surgeon. I think he's a smart kid. I think he's a talented kid. He by his own admission, is like, I didn't have great work ethic. I'm hanging out with my buddies doing butt vapes. He didn't say the butt vape thing, but that's obviously what he was doing, hanging out with his buddies. And after losing to Ronnie Barchelsky, he's like, well, I had to reassess that. If I want to be the best in the world, I got to go out there and train like I'm the best in the world. So he really committed to the process. And he didn't come out here and just beat a Yanis Garamudi or beat somebody that's lowly ranked. He went out there and took on someone that a lot of people have a lot of high expectations to. Lima hasn't lost a fight since his pro debut. And when he took his pro debut at 17 years old. Since then, he's been on like a 13-fight win streak. It's a legitimate win by Payton Talbot. You got to give credit where credit's due. I mean, that was an excellent way to reinvent yourself. And if it's like, oh, these Brazilians too strong for him, wrestling's too good for him, grappling's too good for him, he goes out there and he takes on another scary Brazilian and wins and looks good. So 29-28 across the board, fair. If it was a 30-27, I wouldn't have been like, oh, I disagree with that. First round was super competitive. I get it. I just thought Talbot looked good. So I'm not patting myself on the back. It wasn't like I told everybody, bet Payton Talbot, he's going to kill it. I'm putting him on the top line. This is the easiest fight that's ever happened. I just don't talk like that, right? He was a good underdog pick this week. He came through, and I don't think you're going to get him at underdog money for the foreseeable future. I also don't know who they'll match him up against next, but I don't think they're running to give him a top 5 guy. And unless you are a top-level wrestler, he's going to put a beating on you. So, don't rush him. Don't rush him. Build him up, but give him solid fights. And Felipe Lima was a solid fight. Kid passed the test. Daniel Dariush versus Renato Moicano. Well, we just got one underdog. We could really benefit from a second one. Although Benil started to get close to even money. It was basically a pick 'em once you really think about it. Paul Shaughnessy and I decided to go that one extra mile and go with that Benil Dariush by decision, which I got a plus 275, which I felt pretty good about it, but I also saw guys that had it at plus 300, plus 310, I believe I saw one ticket. So maybe it was a 15, plus 315. Regardless, is like there was a slightly better number to be made there. But yeah, I mean, this one's just a style clash. Renato Moicano is a fan favorite, right? He's got a great podcast. He's Money Moicano. He talks a good game. He's entertaining. He'll take a fight with Islam Makhachev on 2 minutes notice. He's a likable character. It takes away from the fact that his wrestling's non-existent. The guy can't wrestle at all. His jiu-jitsu's solid, assuming he's on top of you, because off his back he's not really all that good. And if he's not on top, how do you get on top of somebody? We got to take him down, and his wrestling's not really good enough to take guys down. What about his striking? I'm not sold on his striking. He's kind of low-ish volume. He doesn't have big power. He's knocked out one guy in the last 5 or 6 years, I believe. I don't know. None of that mattered. You got one guy that's a fan favorite, and one guy, Beneil Dariush, that's lost 2 in a row, hasn't fought in over a year, got knocked out in both of those 2 losses. It just seemed like, without looking at the style, without looking at tape, it's very easy to say Moicano is just going to kick old man Beneil Dariush's ass. When you do look at the tape, it's like Beneil Dariush, he's a little bit older now, and his chin's not world class. And outside of that, everything else about him is pretty well world class. His wrestling is solid. And transitional wrestling, where he can chain a single leg to an ankle pick to a double leg. He goes high. He breaks down the base again. Is he the world's best wrestler? Is he the best wrestler in the division? No, this guy has no wrestling base to begin with. And when you see him go out there and chain wrestle guys and make very smart adjusted moves in there, his wrestling's solid. We all know about his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, high level, competition experience. I believe he was a purple belt world champion. Now he's a black belt, not a black belt world champion, but for MMA purposes, Jiu-Jitsu as good as it gets. His striking, southpaw, always had that left body kick to the liver. He's really implemented down these leg kicks as well. Kicks like an absolute mule. Ring IQ for days. Cardio for days. Pace for days. If Beneil Dariush had Justin Gaethje's chin, he'd be a world champion. If Beneil Dariush had solid durability, he'd be awesome. Whereas, like, Moicano's not really good in any one area. So I'll admit, the first round, I'm like, man, this is spot on. Beneil Dariush is winning the striking exchanges. That left body kick is doing some huge damage. You can see from one of the kicks takes out Moicano's legs in the first round. He falls, he stands back up. One of the other kicks, it's like, doesn't buckle him. It's just he's now stiffening up the leg. He's trying to move on it. There's already damage in the first 4 minutes of this fight. His leg is damaged. His body's damaged. Beneil's making excellent reads. This is going exactly how you want it to. And it's a fist fight. And Beneil Dariush is a lot older now, and his durability is not all that good. So even a guy like Moicano, who's not known for his striking pedigree, he's not known for his clean one-punch power, even a guy like Moicano was able to just chin check him. Beautiful right hand, hits him flush. Beneil hits the deck. Beneil gets back up. He immediately starts to clinch. There's only like 45 seconds left, but you're in full-on survival mode. He does a good job of surviving. And then the round ends, and it's like he shakes his head like this look of disappointment, like, I got caught being cute, just a little bit, right? The first round is when these guys are most dangerous. If you're going to get caught and you're going to get knocked out, chances are you're going to get caught and knocked out early. When he got knocked out by Charles, it's in the first round. When he got knocked out by Arman, it's a minute. Guys, especially power punchers, are always most dangerous in the first round. Moicano's not a power puncher, but when he's fresh and when he's throwing as hard as he possibly can, that's when you can catch a guy. Beneil did excellent work of doing dividends moves. Dividends as in, I'm blasting his legs, I'm blasting his body. And this will pay off in dividends the longer this thing goes. But in the moment, they look good, but that one big punch, that one big knockdown, that takes the round. It's an otherwise Beneil Dariush round, but the knockdown absolutely takes it for Renato Moicano. When he looks at his corner and he shakes his head, like, it's almost like I gave him the round. So the second round, too smart of a guy to do that. He goes right to his wrestling for the second round. 2 takedowns, 4 minutes and 46 seconds of control time. Easy money. The third round, I think he could have done it. He did go 3 for 3. He didn't have nearly as much success at holding Moicano down. Moicano did an excellent job of either trying to sweep. You're not going to sweep Beneil Dariush, especially in Moicano. But just offsetting his balance, which will create space, which will create a scramble, which I can get back up. But then when he would get back up, now that power from the first round, it's not there anymore. And in the first round, he's throwing. In the third round, he's not. I seen people say in the second round and in the third round, they thought at some point Moicano may have popped his shoulder, and that's why he wasn't throwing. I don't know. He was scrambling pretty good in the third round. I don't think he had a compromised shoulder. But in any case, it's like he was dangerous in the first. He was throwing. And I'm not going to say he tired, but the longer this thing went, he didn't have the steam anymore. And so then Beneil in the third round, he knew at that point, I can stand in front of him and I can exchange because maybe he's just not as dangerous at this point. So just excellent adjustments from Beneil. And the difference between a high ring IQ guy like Beneil, who I lost the first round, these are the adjustments I need to make for the second. I'm going to take all the energy out of him, wet blanket him for 446, lands shit, doesn't try any submissions. It's total strikes, chip away just enough so that they don't stand it up. And when they don't stand it up, this guy's got to carry my weight. Now we're in the third round. Now he's going to be slower. Now I've still got lots in the gas tank. Now I'm going to take over. High ring IQ. That's what a high ring IQ guy does. We all love Renato Moicano, but you lost the second. You've lost the vast majority of this third round. There's 30 seconds left. Finally, Beneil turns to the cage. Moicano throws a couple punches. He lands a couple punches. There's 15 seconds left. You're about to lose this fight. In fact, you've lost the entirety of this fight, save for the first round when you got him to exchange with his back up against the cage and you planted him with the right hand. If not for that knockdown, you lost the first round. It's 30-27. But you showed, I can drop this guy. I got to get him back against the cage, and I got to get him to exchange. There's 15 seconds left. Moicano stands there. He shoots a takedown. That's no ring IQ. What was that takedown going to get you? You're getting outstruck 26-8, dog. You got taken down 3 times, and you gave up a minute of control time. What was a takedown with 14 seconds in the round going to do? You should have just let your hands go. You should have tried to bomb him. So Beneil's not only better skill-wise in this matchup across the board, but he just had too much ring IQ. Yeah, he still almost got knocked out. And similar to Terrence McKinney or Amil, if I was going to lose and Moicano slapped him in the first round like that, I was going to look like an idiot. That's how the game goes. You can either be like, boom, see, told you, I was right, or you look like a fucking dunce. There's no in-between. Sometimes there's an in-between. Oh, your guy fought really close and it's a competitive decision and you got robbed. But with certain styles, it's like if you're going to win, it's going to win spectacular. And if you're going to lose, you're going to go down in flames. And so I went down in flames with Amil. I went down in flames with Vyacheslav Borshchev. Beneil, this close to going down in flames with the rest of them. But lives to fight another day and picks up a quality win. The people that were calling him Bum Beneil and they were saying, I can't believe Moicano lost a guy like Beneil Dariush. I think it really discredits just how good Beneil Dariush really is. Is he going to stand in the middle of the pocket and trade and have some crazy fight? Is it going to be like the Brandon Royval fight that we saw right after? Like, no, because he's too smart for that. And he's a little older, and he's been chin-checked a bunch of times. But honestly, skill for skill, Beneil Dariush is a smooth operator and about as good as anybody you're going to see. Josh Van versus Brandon Royval. So we've got our first underdog, Peyton Talbott. We got our second underdog, Beneil Dariush. Our ticket with Kai Kara-France is dead. But this Royval ticket, if you were following the PRPL all this week, the Royval hit would have made it huge. But again, it's a fight game and anything can happen. This was one of the best fights I've seen in an extremely long time. It was close. It was competitive. Both guys had tons of moments. The 467 attempted strikes from Royval. And by the way, the total strikes is 468. The significant strikes is 467. Everything he was throwing was as hard as he could. Everything Josh Van threw, 311, 305 of it was significant. They were all throwing with everything they had. They're flyweights. No, it's not heavyweight power. But they threw caution to the wind, man. How this thing went the distance is crazy considering just the amount of punishment both guys absorbed. Numerically, it's the most strikes ever thrown in a fight. Numerically, Brandon Royval threw more punches, more strikes, I should say, per second than any fighter had ever done prior in the UFC. And it's a really good fight. It was a really, really pleasure to watch. If you watch this recap on a betting perspective, it's like, oh man, I lost money or I won money. And sometimes that takes away from how good something really is. If you watch these recaps on an information base, who won, how'd they look, what's next for them, do you rate the performance? Do you not rate the performance? If you look at it from that perspective, This was just like such a good fight, man. There was no real loser. If you watch Stephan Bonner versus Forrest Griffin, the fight actually sucks. It's like super low level, but for the time period, it was two guys throwing down in a battle of wills, and everybody loves to see that. This was two guys throwing down in a battle of wills with unbelievable technique. And so, just an absolute pleasure to watch. The first round, Royval is actually a little bit low volume, which sounds funny because you'll see 116 significant strikes thrown, right? Later, he would throw a lot more. It's just the landing. He's not landing much. Josh Van's right hand is just very fast. It's very sharp, and it's his best tool. It's his best tool, at least against Royval, in that first round. So whenever Royval would step in to throw a few, he was getting countered by the Josh Van right hand. There's more, the power is coming from Van. That first round, there's more volume coming from Van. Royval just looks like a tad bit, I wouldn't say lost, just he's trying to figure out the best way to approach this guy. The second round, he's like, I can't just stand here and wait. I need to put him on the back foot, and I need to throw. And what he learned in the first was I got hit with not only his best punch, I got hit with his best punch a dozen times. And I took him. And I took him well. And my cardio was feeling good. So in the second round, he resorted to, I'm just going to brawl him. I'm going to put an insurmountable pace on. I've taken all of his best punches, so I trust my chin. I know I can take them. I'm just going to stand toe-to-toe with him. And that's what he did. And the round I scored it for Royval, that might be optimistic because I have Royval, and I want to believe it's a 1-1, and I want to believe that momentum's coming in our favor. The judges, two of them had it for Royval. One of them had it for Van. I wouldn't even disagree with the guy that had it for Van. The numbers look like Royval's outlanding him, but the shots that Van is landing are huge. And sometimes Royval would snap Van's punch, his head back with a three-piece combination. Beautiful 1-2-3. The jab was on point, and you'd see Van's head snap back. But then Van might land one shot, and you'd see Royval like stumble over the side, or just like his whole body would get moved from the one shot. So aesthetically, that one shot was looking as good as a three-piece combination. It's a close round. I'm optimistic. I hope we won the round. But an absolute barn burner. That would cause you to be like, okay, third round, if we got a 1-1, we got momentum, we've got crazy pace, just go out there and put on the exact same crazy pace. Josh Van's starting to fade. The second round, you drew out so much from him that the third round, he's going to slow. But that's just so optimistically thinking because Josh Van doesn't slow. If you know Josh Van, if you watch Josh Van's fights, the third round is always his best round. This guy is also another one of these, I get better the longer the fight goes. And they both got better the longer this fight goes. The difference is that Van had that round in the bank in the first round. Second round, they're throwing down. Royval's trying to swarm him. And then Royval, the difference between Royval and Moicano is Royval feels like I'm down. So in the last 15 seconds, he needs to try to make something happen, a big punch. And in that last, 20 seconds of the fight, 30 seconds of the fight, that's when he gets knocked down, is just going carelessly for it. Moicano is down. He needs a knockout. He shoots a takedown. And that transitions me perfectly to the only gripe that I have with Brandon Royval and the fight is the lack of the takedowns. So that's the reason I picked Brandon Royval was Josh Van. We don't know a ton about his grappling. When you watch him in his fights prior to coming to the UFC, you can take this guy's back. You can out-grapple him. All of his training partners, all of his coaches, all the guys in the know that train with him, they'll be the first ones to tell you he works a lot on his grappling, and it's gotten increasingly better. But he's not fought in anybody that had deep wrestling. Not that Royval is deep wrestling, but a deep ground game. I'm taking Royval under the assumption that, just like the Ray Saruya fight, Saruya is able to take down Josh Van, take his back, have some moments of success. It's when Van gets back up, Ray can't hang with him on the feet. There's nothing there to be offered. Van wins the striking exchanges. Royval, meanwhile, Royval can force some scrambles. Royval's ground game is excellent. Royval can maybe hit up a takedown. And if the fight is standing, and as you saw, he can keep numbers. He can keep pace. He has world-class striking. He's bigger than him. He never even shot one single takedown, which is curious because the first round, you're losing the first round. He's hit you with his 10 best right hands. Why not try to do something different? It's mixed martial arts. I'm fighting a kid in Joshua Van who's an elite level striker. Everyone's praising his striking. He's coming off a number of performances where he's killing these guys with his ridiculously sharp striking. I'm losing the round. He's bombing me with this beautiful combination over and over again. Why not try to take him down? In the third round, I get it. The second round, you had some success, maybe won it. In the third round, it's like, man, every time I step in with these three pieces, this kid's meeting me with one of his own. These shots are landing. I'm getting hurt. What if he got a takedown with 2 minutes left in the round, 90 seconds left in the round? That knockdown, it never happens, right? If you could have got a takedown and maybe grabbed the back, or maybe just got to side control or half guard, or even just regular guard, and just planted him on the back for 90 seconds to end that third round. You had the volume, you had some good striking exchanges, and a little wrestling, one takedown, one little, that could have won you the fight. And he never even tried. He chose violence, which as a fan, we can appreciate. It was an unbelievable fight. They'll give him $50,000, but had he won the fight, he would have got his win bonus, which is a lot more than $50,000, and it would have put him directly in line for a title fight, which makes him a title. If you are a title challenger by contract, you get even more money, and that gives you a chance to win, which would then make you the champion, which gets you even more money. So choosing violence wasn't really the way. Trying to mix in some takedowns and take this guy down was the way, and he didn't do that. It's a super fun fight. I had him at dog money, so it's like he fought for my dollar, and it was close, and it was competitive, and I'm not mad, and I'm really not. It's just, who's coaching this guy? I seen Alexander Hernandez in there with him. That should have been everything I needed to know. It's like, it's mixed martial arts, right? You know, you could have just taken a K1 kickboxing or a glory kickboxing match with this guy and done this. Like, it's mixed martial arts, and you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. Quite a good one. In fact, one of the hottest props this week was Brandon Royval by submission. I think it opened up, whatever, it was like 8-1, minus 800. Some people got it for like plus 880. But the bottom line is it was an 8-1 prop that they then moved down to plus 500 because that's how many people were like, Royval can legitimately submit this guy. He's an excellent grappler, has ridiculously good submissions. And Van, that's the path to victory for him, is that this young kid who's a striking dynamo, you can grab this kid's neck. You can make something happen. We love this prop, submission prop. A lot of people were on that this week. And he never even attempted one single takedown. Think about that. So, you know, we always talk about path of least resistance, and there's also a path of most resistance. And that's the one he took. That is exactly the one that he took. Kai Kara-France versus Alexander Pantoja. This is just a really bad bet on my part. Bad in the sense that I really thought that Kai Kara-France's takedown defense was a lot better. Like, I watched the footage. He's taken on good wrestlers, and his scrambles are good. But it was like, we all know Pantoja's back take is like second to none. He puts the body triangle on you, and you're not going anywhere. That was just so easy for him, I thought. First round, he takes him down, body triangle. It's a rout of a round, right? 4 minutes and 45 seconds of control time. Kai Kara-France has no idea how to get out of this body triangle. I don't blame him. Pantoja's on your back. What can you do? But there's still 4 more rounds, so work your way back into it. The second round, Pantoja stood with him and still beat him up. But part of that is he's so worried that the takedown's coming. And he's so worried that if the takedown comes and he's not absolutely prepared to sprawl this thing out and stuff it, that he's going to get his back taken. And that if he gets his back taken, it's the rest of the round. He knows now, I can't get him off of my back. I'm trying to, you got to roll to the side that the foot's on to create space. It's like, pressure, sorry. It's like, no, Pantoja's on your back. You're not going anywhere. It's like Aljamain Sterling on your back. He's starting to lose a little bit, but, you know, Ryan Hall on your back. There's certain guys, like, once they would take your back, well, that's it, you know? That's it. That was one of those cases. So the second round, he's so hesitant, waiting for this takedown. He gets outstruck. And then the third round, I don't know. He never really got into this thing. Part of me could, like, if you were one of those sour guys, you could be like, man, he was sick, or he took a dive. I don't know. That take a dive is a stretch. He got routed. He got routed fair and square. But you would say something was wrong with him. But there was nothing wrong with him. There's nothing wrong with him. It was that's how much better Alexander Pantoja was than him, that he just made him look way out of place. So Kai Kara-France is not done. He's still an elite flyweight. But yeah, he's a striker. Again, it's like certain fights, he shows you some solid grappling. And then you watch this one, and it's like there's levels to this shit. And he ain't at that level. For Pantoja, yeah, 35 years old, guy's an absolute beast. Him versus Royval was a fight that we'd already seen before, and Pantoja won. And now he just takes out Kai Kara-France, who was the #1 contender. And so with Van beating Royval, it makes most sense to do Joshua Van versus Pantoja. And that's the thing. Royval shot 0 takedowns on Joshua Van. So going into that presumable fight, if that's what they put together next, people will say, oh, well, Josh Van's way better striker than Pantoja, and that's fact. But we still don't know anything about his wrestling or his grappling. And so Royval could have at least tried to attempt to show us something and help Pantoja out. But yeah, Pantoja's just going to have to go do what he does every time, which is get those takedowns and put a beating on. Anyways, what we're coming down to is this main event, and we're going to really need Ilia Topuria here to get us in the green because it's been a good card. It's been very fun. It's been very electric. We've got some good bounces. We got some bad bounces, and it's all going to be worth shit if Ilia Topuria doesn't come out there and win this fight. On a personal level, I'm a big Charles Oliveira fan, and so like watching him get deaded like that is never like super enjoyable. Winning money is enjoyable. Seeing a guy win a big KO victory and a big highlight, and it was a nasty knockout, and the technique on it, the jab to the body just to like get his brain being like, oh, what's coming next, and then he goes right hand and left hook. Like I think this guy's about as good as it gets. It was beautiful to watch, but it's just hard to see Charles Oliveira get crumpled like that because you are, a big fan of his work. And again, when it comes down to being fans of these guys, first and foremost is that we all have our favorite fighters and you all got guys that you gravitate towards, the styles that you like. And then sometimes that just skews it where a fight is going to be a one-sided beating. But because you like this guy, you're just going to put some money on him. And that was the love that I saw a couple weeks ago with the rematch of O'Malley versus Merab, whereas I don't know, everybody smart has Merab, but there's just a ton of love. I shouldn't say smart because that's disrespectful to the guys that are smart that did have Sean O'Malley, but it's the love factor. You love Sugar Sean, and he's got the hair, and their legitimate reason why he would win the rematch. He's like, dude, the guy hasn't been on social media for a year, man. He's taking it seriously. It's like, that's not a good enough reason, but they like him. And Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather, they like him. And even these Jake Paul fights, like, why does anybody ever bet against Jake Paul? He's the clear A side, but they hate him so much. They hate him so much. They can't bet on him. They'll bet whoever it is against him because of the dislike. Topuria talks a lot of shit. He's not the most likable guy in terms of his media personality. He's very arrogant. And Charles is just the coolest guy going. Your favorite fighter. The guy's an absolute gem. He's an OG at this point. He's tenured, submission leader, paid his dues, done everything right. So because of that, there's all this love for Charles this week, but he's a lot bigger than him, and there's memes, and look how small Ilia is. And they'd say Ilia's power is not going to translate from 45 to 55, and Charles Oliveira's been in there with Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, and they didn't knock him out. All of that is fair. But you got to put some respect on Ilia Topuria's name, is that this guy is, pound for pound, probably the best guy in the UFC. If he's not the best guy in the UFC, he'd be the second or third pound for pound best guy in the UFC. And here's a really unpopular opinion that people won't agree with, and that's fair because we all have our own opinions. I get it. But I think pound for pound greatest of all time, he ranks a lot higher than a lot of the guys. Like, let's say you said a Khabib Nurmagomedov, because everyone always says, oh, he's a pound for pound go. He only ever fought at one weight class, right? 155 pounds. Okay, well, he was the best at 155. Well, pound for pound, he didn't really move around. And greatest of all time, he didn't challenge himself. He didn't go to 170 and beat Kamaru Usman. He didn't go to 170 and say, I'm going to smack up Colby Covington, who was a interim champ at the time, but at least people had some respect for him. He didn't go beat up a Leon Edwards or Bilal Muhammad, although he's probably capable of doing those things. He did it. So who are his big wins at 155 pounds? Well, he beat Conor McGregor. Yeah, partied out up a weight class, not taking it seriously, Conor McGregor. He beat Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje's the Homer Simpson of the UFC. We all love watching him fight. So unbelievably entertaining. Guy can take a wealth of damage. But would that be considered your biggest win? So what makes you the greatest of all time? What's your biggest win? Topuria, okay? Topuria's last 3 wins, he knocks out Alexander Volkanovski, which is intense. He knocks out Max Holloway, the first guy to ever do it. Max Holloway in the talks for greatest 45er of all time. He absolutely sparks him. And then he comes in and sparks Charles Oliveira in less than 2.5 minutes, a guy that Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler couldn't put away. You can hate on this guy all you want. His last 3 wins are against 3 of the greatest guys in the sport. in 2 different weight classes, and all of them went through the exact same fate. They got knocked the fuck out. So he's got a better resume than Khabib Nurmagomedov. Okay, now let's talk about John Jones. John Jones, greatest of all time. No, John Jones has got steroid tests. So first of all, he's a cheat. The guy's a shitty human being. Not that that means anything about your fighting resume, but for his fighting resume, he tested positive. He's a cheat. The no contest against Daniel Cormier. But then when you look at his body of work, it's like, oh, well, John's got all of these wins. And I said Khabib didn't go up a weight class. John did. John went up to heavyweight. John went up to heavyweight and refused to fight the best guy in the division. Ilia Topuria went up to 155, not to fight Charles Oliveira. He specifically went up to fight Islam Makhachev. I want Islam Makhachev. Words that have never been spoken by any fucking person on this planet. I would like to fight Islam Makhachev. Sarukian says he does, but obviously, and he has, but whatever. All that aside, Topuria goes up. He doesn't want to just fight a guy in the division. He wants to fight the best guy in the division, a guy that's now going up to 170 and could have success there. And you know what Topuria says? Well, I'll go to 170 and I'll take you there too. So when Jones went up, it was like, Cyril Gane? You mean the French Muay Thai guy that absolutely can't wrestle and has no ground game? Yeah, I would fight him. Oh, you mean I can fight Stipe Miocic? He hasn't fought in 3 years and he's in his mid-40s and he's basically just living life, drinking Modestas and hanging out. I don't know. He handpicked 2 guys at heavyweight. His run at light heavyweight, he went the distance with Anthony Smith. He went the distance with Ovid St. Preux. He arguably robbed Dominic Reyes. This guy's the greatest of all time. I don't see him nuking the best guys on the planet. And people will say, well, John did back in the day. No, because Rampage was like 38. Shogun had both of his knees blown out. Rashad Evans, another decision, boring-ass fight. Rashad was done. Vitor Belfort almost broke his arm in Toronto. Vitor was in his 40s, fighting up 2 weight classes. 1 weight class. Vitor's a middleweight, big middleweight. Anyways, Ilia Topuria's resume from what I'm looking at right now is better than John Jones's. It's not the popular opinion. I understand you're sitting at home saying, this guy's a fucking idiot. Leave it in the comment section. Helps for algorithms and just helps, just helps in general. If you're going to call me an idiot in the comment section. If you agree, great. If you don't, we all have our own opinions. But he's got a better resume than Khabib. He's got a better resume than John Jones. Okay, well, who else is the greatest of all time? Well, George St. Pierre. George fought in 2 different weight classes. He went to 185. He won the title there. Beat Michael Bisping. And then they said, okay, great. We gave you the one easy fight. Gave you this cool little super fight. Bisping shows up to the press conference drunk and parties the whole camp. Smokes a pack of cigs a day in the lead up. George beats him. Dana says, awesome. We gave you the fight. We gave you the belt. We gave you the big payday. And you owe us, according to the contract you signed, 1 more fight. Would you, because you're George, we'll let you pick whoever you want. Would you rather fight Robert Whittaker? Or would you rather fight Yoel Romero? And George says, I'm not fighting either. I'm done. Here's your belt back. Quick little one-off to come fight Michael Bisping up at 185. A guy that has 1 eye. Come back to fight him and then refuse to fight any of the other middleweight contenders. 1 fight every fight fan from my era clamored forever was Anderson Silva versus George St. Pierre. Nowadays, every guy goes up. Volkanovski's going up to 55, fighting the best. Topuria's going up. Conor McGregor moved up weight classes. Daniel Cormier's moving up weight classes. The best guys go up the weight classes. George refused the fans the Anderson Silva fight on the basis of, don't need to take it. He's too big. And then once Anderson was gone, said, I'll fight Michael Bisping. He's not too big. Well, Michael Bisping fought Anderson Silva. He beat Anderson Silva, but George wouldn't do it. So George always cowered from that fight. George got crumpled by a 155-pound Matt Serra once upon a time. And when George beat the best guys in the world, and I'll never take that away from him, he beat the best guys of his era. And he dominated them. He's just holding them down. He takes them down. I took Nick Diaz down, held him down. I took down Carlos Condit and held him down. Although he 4th-round head kick almost put George down. He arguably robs Johnny Hendricks, who he couldn't do shit to. What are his other big wins? Jake Shields in Toronto, one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life live. Just an absolute abomination. He's standing there striking when Jake Shields, who has no striking. His fight with John Fitch, you can go back and say he had awesome fights with DJ Penn, and Jay Heron's not an awesome fight. It's an awesome finish. Second fight with Matt Hughes. I don't know. George, in my opinion, is greatest of all time. Better legacy than Khabib. Better legacy than John Jones. But when I'm looking at Ilia Topuria, who's 28 years old, his destiny, his story, his legacy has not even been written yet. He's nuking the best guys in the division. They're all Volkanovski's a Hall of Famer, Max is a Hall of Famer, Charles Oliveira is a Hall of Famer, and he's ripping their heads off. So if you don't like his personality or his gimmick or how he holds himself in public spaces or whatever, I don't give a shit, man. This guy's a special talent, and so yeah, what can you do? If he could still make 145, no one's touching him at 45. At 155, there's fun fights for him, you know? Of course, everyone wants to see Makhachev. That doesn't want to do it, apparently. But him versus Sarukian obviously makes sense. And, you know, they'll find some other poor some bitch to get in the cage with him. But, yeah, you'd like to see him fight for 3 more years, continue to do this, beat the best guys, take super fights, beat Islam Makhachev, maybe move up to 170 to fight. It would have to be to fight against a guy that, like, Charles is a former 45er, so it makes sense to fight him at 155. It would make sense to fight a guy at 170 that's a former 55er or a 45er. It doesn't make sense to fight a guy at 170 that used to fight at 185 kind of thing. So I don't think he's going to be a great welterweight, but I think he can win a world title. He did win a world title at 145. He just won a world title at 155. He can defend this thing. He can chase Makhachev for a big money fight. Again, it's like, I think that it didn't cement his legacy. His legacy still remains to be seen. But when you look at who are the pound for pound greatest of all times, and if your answer is George St. Pierre, Khabib Nurmagomedov, John Jones, their legacies are all in real big trouble because this Ilia Topuria kid just rolled into town and he means some serious fucking business. Murad is slowly starting to get my nod for like one of these guys that's just gone above and beyond and done everything. But again, I think there has to be something to be said for the way Topuria is beating these guys, the fact that they're just not even competitive fights. He's still young. He's still like 5 years younger than Merab, 6 years younger than Merab, has a long ways to go. And yeah, I don't know. I love both of them. Georgia is a small country that it's not small, but they haven't produced, 10 fighters in the UFC. And they arguably got like 2 of the greatest fighters of all time. So kudos, man. And I'm not trying to sit here and, be all, this is the I love Ilia Topuria recap hour. I don't overly care for him. I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite fighters. I don't watch any of the interviews. I don't really watch any of that stuff. I see some comments. Obviously, you consume media. You're going to see bits here and there. Doesn't seem like the kind of guy I'd probably have a beer with at a bar in comparison to some of these other guys. You got to recognize talent. You got to recognize talent. And this guy's got an abundance of talent. So that's about it from me this week. I don't know how long I've been rambling on for, but it was a really fun card, man. That's what UFC pay-per-views are all about. Next week, there is not a UFC card lined up, so it's a bit of an off week, but of course, we will be covering more regional stuff, whatever's coming up, whatever they're going to give us lines for, we're going to jump in. This is Sunday that there's recording, so there's actually Tough Enough from Las Vegas. Starts at 5 p.m. on Fight Pass, so I kind of want to get ready and jump over into some of that stuff, but yeah, again, the grind always goes on. People sometimes trash on the product, be like, oh, the UFC is not what it used to be, and the names aren't what they used to be, and the talent isn't what it used to be, and the aura is gone, and the new gloves don't produce these knockouts. And I thought 317 was an awesome show. In comparison, because I'm such a loser, I watched lots of fights at the same time. I did have the Jake Paul event up, and I'm not even just saying the Jake Paul fight, but like the event. There was a couple good knockouts. It wasn't entertaining. Chavez versus Jake Paul on one hand, Royval versus Van, the knockout that Ilia Topuria had, if you like grappling, you like BJJ, which of course I do, Pantoja is just absolute annihilation. This card had a little bit of something for everybody. So yeah, good times to be had all around. Could have been better, could have been a lot worse. And so yeah, you just roll on to the next one. I'm happy with how that one went. PFL wiped my ace this week, so I was happy that UFC was able to get it back and upwards and onwards. So thanks for taking the time out of your day. Check out the UFC 317 recap. International Fight Week seemed like it was a hot time over in Las Vegas. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Cheers to everybody. Take care.